So here's a brief introduction to marginal cost, the mother of all short-run costs. Remember that we're talking about production, and most production happens in the short run with at least one fixed variable, therefore fixed cost, and at least one variable input, a variable cost. Labor is traditionally a variable input, as are sugar, flour, machines, buildings. These are fixed costs. So we can think of the total cost as being a combination of fixed cost and variable cost. And this tutorial focuses on this aspect. What happens to total cost as we try to increase output? What's the relationship between quantity and total cost? So let's imagine a production process for wheat, and the variable input is labor. As we increase labor, wheat increases. But you'll notice the pattern is not at a constant rate. So imagining that each worker costs $200, we can see the increase in total variable cost, right? As we increase workers. One worker, 200, two workers, 400, three workers, 600. And there's also a fixed cost, and this fixed cost for this firm is clearly 400. They spend 400 whether they're producing 0 or whether they're producing 96. So if we add up variable cost and fixed cost, we get this total cost over here. This is economics. Of course, we're going to want to graph this. So let's graph quantity of wheat on the horizontal, cost on the vertical, and we just simply plot these points. We notice that total cost increases as output increases. And the term for the increase in total cost when output increases by a unit is marginal cost. So marginal cost is a very important measure for all firms. In fact, it's the measure by which we'll figure out how to profit maximize. So firms really need to get a hold on this marginal cost number. A few terminology issues. The delta is for change, and of course here's the terminology total cost, and quantity is quantity of output. And here's another look at it. This is a different production process. This is salsa, and the fixed cost remains 108 no matter what level of production we have, but variable cost increases, and we can see that total cost increases as we increase output, and the increase in total cost coming from increases in salsa is found by the change in total cost divided by the change in quantity of salsa. So this increase of $12 from 108 to 120 divided by 1, that's $12 for the next case of salsa. Going from 1 to 2, total cost increases by 36, so 36 divided by 1, and on and on. So what happens to marginal cost? Marginal cost increases. In other words, total cost increases at an increasing rate as we increase our salsa production. So why does that happen? It has to do with the productivity. So the law of diminishing marginal returns, this idea that as you add more and more of a variable cost to a fixed cost, for instance, more and more workers into a factory that produces salsa, at some point the productivity of extra workers will drop. Maybe they're getting crowded, maybe they're running out of shelf space, maybe there's a bottleneck with the stoves, whatever. You get something that slows down productivity. As long as there's a fixed cost and you keep adding variable costs, this will happen. So the law of diminishing marginal returns, that law of diminishing productivity as you add more workers, is the driver for this increasing marginal cost. If workers are getting less and less productive, it's going to cost you more and more workers to achieve each additional unit of salsa. Here the two graphs are side by side, total cost and marginal cost. And here is a more formal explanation of the link between diminishing productivity and increasing marginal cost.